Kamala Harris, Breakfast Club, Town Hall with Charlemagne the ass. Charlemagne, whatever. Last night, Kamala Harris joined the Breakfast Club's Charlemagne the God for what they called an audio town hall, where several audience members sat tightly, stacked behind glass. And a few were afforded the opportunity to stand up and ask the vice president questions. All black people, of course. Additionally, calls were taken where people were also given the opportunity to question the presidential candidate. Call in, I forgot what they called it. They called it something. But anyway. Now, let me save you the suspense, of course, that this was, of course, a black thing. Black audience, black agenda, black host. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Because that's the crowd that Harris is seeking to identify with, the crowd she's looking to pander to reach. It's the identify with part that's always a bit hilarious to me as she continues with her never-ending story of growing up middle class, and somehow that's supposed to be relating to the black struggle, I guess. So, of course, we got topics ranging from the black church, we had a reverend there, weed, and giving free money. No talk about collard greens, watermelon, or her love of Megan Thee Stallion and jazz, though. I was kind of shocked by it. I thought there'd be a little bit of shucking and jiving regarding collard greens and all that stuff, but they didn't go there. She went in at least 2 times with her nonsense, right? With Charlemagne. And in only one of the attempts where he actually tried to be a journalist, he questioned her on the repetition of that story, that whole middle class story, in every interview that she gives. He didn't really question her on it, right? He basically gave her a pass and basically said, well, he basically agreed, that's what you do, it's your story, so keep repeating it, of course. He didn't bother pressing her on the fact that she often uses that story as a way to deflect from answering real questions with any real, substance or specificity, just not answering at all. Now, I want to just get into some of what went down and some of the exchanges between herself and the folks asking her questions, as well as Charlemagne's role in all this. All right, let's do that. But first, if you're new here, you haven't yet subscribed, please be sure to do so and to hit that notification bell so you are notified when new content is available. For my listeners on the audio-only streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, please be sure to rate, review the podcast as well. I most appreciate that. It helps with all the analytics and stuff of the actual podcast. Now, welcome to the Time to Talk podcast. It's time to talk. Okay, so where to begin? How about with this whole contrived act of being late, where Charlemagne points out to Harris that she's late, wherein Harris specifies that it's only 40 seconds. And then Charlemagne quickly points out, you know where this is going already, right? He quickly points it out, well, it's okay because she's black. Because, it's a black thing, being late. That's a cool thing. Yeah, her blackness confirmation agenda once again at play. So I guess I could go point by point in relation to the questions, asked of her and the answers given, only she never really gave any answers, which is what's new there. Now, don't get me wrong. She made statements. She stated statistics and told stories, but as usual, she never, anything specific, and she just continued to say things about how everything was going to be different, but she's the one currently in charge. For example, how to decriminalize marijuana. That came up, right? And remove it as a Schedule 1 narcotic. How is she going to handle that? Here's her answer. We had to work with the DEA. There's a certain level of bureaucracy that exists in Fed government that slows things down, essentially to bring down how weed is classified, to make it classified as a lesser harm. And so that took some time. There's a whole process around that. End quote. Done. I have no idea what she said. Huh? What? Huh? What? When asked via phone, which is what they call, it was actually called a talkback feature, a caller asked about why they were sending money overseas to fund wars, but not spending money here in the U.S. to support ourselves and the issues plaguing the United States, right? And this caller was very adamant about saying that's one of the things I'm going to decide whether or not to vote for you on. And here's her answer. We can do it all. And we do. But I stand by and I maintain very strongly America should never pull ourselves away from our responsibility as a world leader. It is in best interest of our national security and our standing in the world. We also have an obligation to our citizens to meet their everyday needs and challenges, end quote. Then she listed the actual Biden administration's achievements, prescription drug costs lowering, their commitment to HBCUs, $17 billion. And, she's the first HBCU vice president. Then her plan for the $25,000 to the first-time home buyers, the child tax credit, access to capital for small business and entrepreneurs, because we know how much she loves small businesses and entrepreneurs. Things we've heard a billion times by now. And in every pandering softball interview she's done, this is the same answer she gives every single time. It's just a template. And as far as doing it all, mind you, we're sending trillions to fund war in the Middle East and in Ukraine, right? Israel, right? Funding genocide. Yeah, that's fine. But here, somehow the plans she's working on are going to help us citizens meet our everyday needs and challenges. Okay. Well, if we're doing it all, why are we not doing it now? Why aren't we seeing any of this now? Because I don't see, if you're doing it all, I don't notice it. Then she was asked by a reverend, by the black church, they wheeled the reverend out, about her lack of engagement in the black church, with the black church, and how she would partner with the black church to address needs specifically related to the black community via the church. First thing she does is use the misinformation, disinformation line, claiming that any allegations about her not being engaged with the black church is total lies, trumped up by the Trump folks. Then she, of course, went into her history and her upbringing in the black church and all the hymns she loves to sing, how she likes to get down and feel the Holy Ghost. Whole lot of talk, but still no answer, no specifics, which would actually identify her plans, any initiatives or commitments as president to partner with the black churches and what specifically she'll do. She didn't really answer this guy's question. You see a pattern, right? Just keeps going, just keeps going. Then she was asked about being called out on the idea that she won't do anything specific for black people, right? Again, black audience, this makes sense. She says one of the biggest challenges she faces is misinformation and disinformation. Okay, here we go again. Yeah, we know that's a challenge for you and the Democrats, which is why Hillary, you, Biden, and company have been working so tirelessly to get control of free speech and basically suppressing, censoring, and controlling what information and narratives are out there, right? Yeah, disinformation, misinformation. I guess it's tough when people who pay attention can actually find out the real truth, fact check things, and make decisions for themselves. But again, don't give an answer. Then, she basically said, why don't you ask Donald Trump his plan for Black America? This is where a real journalist would have clapped back and said, no, I asked you what your plan is for Black America. Specifically, give me some specifics. Of course, Charlamagne's not a real journalist. Anyway, let's continue. So then she goes into how Trump says he's going to suspend the Constitution of the United States. She's talking about fear-mongering that they're all doing, but yet she's using fear-mongering here to suggest he's going to suspend the Constitution. Now, for context here, folks, that was from one of his Truth Social posts back in December of 2022, where he basically tweeted on his thing that based on his claim the election was rigged, he posted the following: a massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution, end tweet. Which he then tried to walk back that statement. So I guess he realized how ridiculous that was. Either way, it was more just Trump big mouth nonsense, 3 a.m. tweeting crap. He's not actually out there campaigning and saying in his plans, I haven't heard any speeches where he's going to suspend the Constitution. That's not on his policy agenda. She then gets into specific amendments to remind listeners how crucial they are and specifically how these amendments are important to black people. Well, allow me for a second here to share with my listeners the fact that the Sixth Amendment was pretty much done away with some time ago back in December 2011. When Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act, which basically allows for the writ of habeas corpus to be avoided, as well as the Sixth Amendment's right to counsel. So let's not get into amendments and who's going to destroy what. Let's not get into that. Because prior to that, back when Biden was a senator, and he was known as the law and order senator, he had been pushing to expand police authority and bragged that they sent up my bill when the Patriot Act was basically passed before Congress for a vote. Now, these expansions all eventually serve as violations of the Fourth Amendment warrant requirements, and they're generally invasive to the privacy of ordinary Americans, Black Americans specifically. Well, Americans. But yeah, it includes us. Let's get past the Constitution. And for the record, I'm not defending Trump saying stupid stuff, I'm just defending reality and providing the correct context in an effort to keep things factual. That's all I'm doing. Again, he says dumb stuff and it is what it is. But he's not out there saying we're going to get rid of the Constitution. He couldn't do that if he wanted to. Now, continuing, what are your plans for police brutality? She was asked this, right? And she rambled on with, well, the work I've done and what the Biden administration, she didn't really do anything. And well, you pretty much get the point at this point, right? No specifics, no real answers, no nada. Just her, But, I think that the crazy thing, you would think that being there, addressing a Black audience, she'd come more prepared with direct solutions specifically for Black people. That's all she had to do. Figure these things out ahead of time. But it's not the case. Everything she discussed was pretty general and will apply to all people, which of course is a good thing, right? If there are specific issues, though, related to the plight of Black Americans, and she's trying to capture that vote, you'd think there'd be some real work being done by the Black woman who wants to become the first Black woman president. Is what it is, I guess. This is the new thing in politics. No real debates or interviews, or at least no debates with objective moderators on networks that aren't already politically captured and siding with one candidate. No real interviews with real journalists with real questions. Just this sort of tour where you do softball interviews. Welcome to America, people. Welcome to America. We got an election coming up, 2 weeks or so? Oh, let me not forget this. Let me add this. I was going to mention this at the top. I almost forgot. Of course, she was wearing an earpiece. Wasn't even hiding the fact that she had an earpiece, a wired earpiece. So even though we didn't get any real answers, we didn't get too much of the normal word salad that she likes to serve up when she's off script and off teleprompter and just out there on her own. So not a lot of word salad, because I'm pretty sure she had someone speaking in her ear. Oh, my God. Then we've got her plan, I guess, the day before she did this Breakfast Club thing? She had her plan for Black men where she's going to make weed more accessible and legal for us, and she's going to give us money that's forgivable, loans that are forgivable. What else does she say she's going to do? I went over it. You saw my video. If you watch my channel, if you didn't see, watch that video where I talk about her plan for the brothers and how ridiculous that really was. Man, listen, Yankees are winning. I'm good. Mets are winning. I'm good. This is just, this is interesting. This is interesting stuff. She goes, I guess, I don't know, what's her next tour going to be like? What's her next stop? So it's probably going to be more Black churches. Apparently she's hitting the churches and she's doing that whole circuit. So like the whole Chitling circuit thing, right? She's probably going to stop over at Tyler Perry's studio. She probably should do that. In fact, be a great idea if Tyler, TP himself, Madea, gave her like a small role in an upcoming film that's going to be released just a week before the election. There you go. Something just straight to Netflix. You know what I mean? Or something straight to BET. We'll see what happens. Anyway, Time to Talk Podcast. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. I truly appreciate that. Like the video and let me know in the comments below. Did you see this interview? Did you listen to this? What do you think? Are you still Team Harris? Are you not Team Harris? Are you voting for Trump? I'm not voting for Trump. I'm not voting for Harris. I just want to hear your take on it. Appreciate your feedback. I appreciate you being here and watching these things. And I will see you on the next Time to Talk Podcast. Peace.